Alright, everybody. So, this topic has been getting a lot of coverage, but I still feel like I should throw my hat into the ring and give a little commentary on it, because this is a big deal. We are in the era of legitimate internet censorship. Now, whether or not you think this is a good or bad thing is kind of an opinionated-based thing. I've heard some pretty salient arguments that the platforms we're seeing engage in this type of censorship probably should have taken these same motions years ago due to the type of audience that inhabits said platforms, notably like Steam. However, this is also coming alongside a tightening of the grip across the internet on a lot of other things. Not even things that are necessarily sexual, like in the case of the recent Steam game ban. You see, anime and animation hosting websites all across the internet, including indie game hosting websites, have been getting shut down all over the place, left and right, for the last week or two. And people are starting to panic. It seems like the federal government in the US here, with Trump and whatnot, and the more conservative governments in power right now across Europe are all sort of unanimously, I guess, jumping to the whims of the powerful market interests to engage in these censorship policies that are being forced on them by pressure from payment processors. And those payment processors, mind you, are not necessarily the bad guys. They are operating and doing, like, in some bad ways, but the real bad guys are the groups putting pressure on the payment processors, who are then putting pressure on platforms to engage in censorship on what they host. And these groups are typically Christian, nationalist radical groups, such as that one Australian-based one I can't remember the name of, for, like, the life of me. Was it? Yeah, I can't remember the name of that group for the life of me, but if anyone in chat remembers, just drop it in chat. I'd appreciate it. But there's been sort of a across-the-board interest in cracking down on the freedom of the internet. And a lot of people are not happy about it. And so I got this video recommended to me by you guys in my Discord server, and I figured we ought to give a little bit of it a watch. See what they have to say about this, well, as they say, secret war to censor the internet. Let's see what the deal is. Thank you to the birthday wishers in chat, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you. So let's see. This video is by a channel called Lextorious. Let's see if they are being dramatic or if they're making some good points. If we have reason to be scared that things are going to get a lot more extreme. Collective Shout. Thank you. Collective Shout is the name of the Australian Christian group that lobbied payment processors to crack down on Steam. Thank you. I couldn't remember their name for the life of me. Collective Shit, more like.
On July 15th, 2025, a few days before I began writing this video, the largest online gaming platform in the world, Steam, made an update to their rules and guidelines. Specifically, the category What You Shouldn't Publish on Steam, which added content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks, or internet network providers. In particular, certain kinds of adult-only content.
So this problem with the big payment processors is not new. In America, there's like 4, maybe 3 companies that operate as large payment processors that are like the monopoly. They have a monopoly on the whole industry, right? And pretty much all of them are very unfriendly due to public pressure with the idea of their services being used for any kind of sexual-related transaction. Like, you might argue, okay, it's kind of reasonable if a company doesn't want you using your debit card for, like, engaging in prostitution or something. But on the other hand, there are also much more cringe examples of these payment processors cracking down on this type of thing. For example, like cam girls, porn stars, and OnlyFans girls have notoriously dealt with this in the past, where just trying to monetize, they will be denied, and that's been the standard. But I've even heard stories where, and PayPal operates this way too. PayPal also does this, mind you. PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, I have heard that even if you don't use them for any kind of sex work related thing in your career, like if you're a sex worker, even if they find out what you do for a living, they might punish you despite the fact you don't use their service for those things. Like, you are banned from using their services if you do any type of work in the 18 plus industry. And it could be like drawing like porn comics on Twitter. It could be being a big mainstream porn star, or it could be like being an OnlyFans or like a cam girl or something. Regardless, if these big payment processors, including like PayPal, find out, they will person ban you for life, according to a fair amount of stories that I've heard, enough that I'm pretty confident it's true. I don't feel like it's an exaggeration or made up. But yeah, like, that is some extreme overreach on their part. These payment processors control a lot of people's lives and whether or not they can buy things. So the idea that your job could make you ineligible for any of these main payment processors in America, even if you're not using them to do anything related to that job, is crazy to me. Like, people in your line of work are not allowed to use our service is wild. Yeah, legal job, mind you. But it's all because of public pressure.
This policy change might seem like a rather unimportant one at first, something that likely would have slipped under the radar if there weren't people who actively keep tabs on all of this. But it is important. After all, within a few days of the rule change going into effect, several hundred games were removed from Steam. And the truth is, this change is but one part of a long campaign trying to effectively censor the internet, a war that's been raging for decades now with payment processors like Visa and MasterCard at the center, and one that very obviously threatens freedom of expression for everyone if left unchecked, especially for anything even remotely adult. Don't believe me? Well, let's take a look at some more examples. On June 25th, 2025, Fansly, a major creator support site, announced that it would be banning adult material involving things like amateur wrestling, hypnosis, and anything resembling or role-playing as an animal, including
Isn't Fansly a porn site? The porn sites are doing it? Okay, hold on. Anthropomorphic content. This could be reasonable. Let's read this guideline. Our payment processing partners classify some anthropomorphic content as simulated bestiality. That isn't necessarily a stretch. As a general guideline, kimonomimi, human-like characters with animal ears or tails, is permitted. Okay, that's like soft furry shit. Like, so that's not even like, they're not banning that. Okay. But full personas, kimono... Isn't a kimono garb? Are you not allowed to wear a kimono? Is it like a racialized thing? What are they? And scaly content, like lizard shit, like lizard furries, are prohibited in adult contexts. Why are they talking about artistic representations or people in fursuits? Because isn't a fursona also when people have like a physical fursuit? Would it be not allowed on Fansly now to wear a fursuit? Because I feel like someone in a full fursuit might be some of the least sexual content on Fansly, right? Like, that covers a lot of the body. So, I don't know. Hypnosis or mind control. This is an interesting one. This prohibition includes all synonymous terms. Mesmerize, mindfuck, mind control, or hypno, regardless of context. I guess because of the idea that to hypnotize is to take away one's consent, so it's like some kind of consensual non-consent play. They don't want that. Wrestling content. Why? Why is wrestling content banned? Professional, studio-produced adult wrestling is permitted. Okay. Amateur or party wrestling content is prohibited, as it may be interpreted as non-consensual activity even when consensual. Content that simulates force, struggle, or non-consent violates our policies. So you're not even allowed to, like, if you're like a jiu-jitsu or MMA YouTuber and you open a Fansly as a joke just to like monetize some additional content uploads. If you're like, hey guys, thanks for subscribing to my Fansly. Me and John here are going to demonstrate how to put somebody into an arm bar or a rear naked choke. Not as sexual as it sounds, by the way, the rear naked choke. It's basically a headlock, but backwards from behind. Arm lock? I don't know if there's like a wrestling name for the same thing. Regardless, though, like that would now be considered against the rules. Public spaces and recording locations. This one seems reasonable. I assume most of you guys don't want to find out that like you're in the background of a porno or something. Sexual activity is prohibited in all public spaces. That's reasonable. Nudity is prohibited in public spaces where it's not legally permitted. Wait, what? Nudity is prohibited in public spaces where it's not legally permitted. So, like, if you're at a nude beach or something, you're allowed to be nude in public on Fansly. Both nudity and sexual activity are prohibited on third-party private property without owner permission or in any location visible to the public. That last one is pretty reasonable, I think. That's literally meant to protect the public from the porn industry, you know, like that's reasonable. I can see some logic in the wrestling content thing. They don't want liability for, like, somebody getting hurt recording a Fansly like wrestling video, I guess. The hypnosis mind control thing, I guess that's a little yucky, but I guess they don't want to promote the look that might be kind of bad of like consensual non-consent type stuff. And anthropomorphic content, furry stuff is generally seen as kind of weird for, I wouldn't necessarily say you should feel bad if you're a furry. But I will say there are reasons why people look at furry stuff as kind of weird. Anything that is even borderline sexual and even a little bit evocative of animals is always going to put people a bit on edge, even if you don't really, like, get weird about it, you know? It's always going to make people go a little like, it's a little, you know, it's unconventional sexual attraction. It's always gonna make people a little weirded out, and because of that, I can see why there's some public pressure to not allow monetization of that kind of content. Because I don't know if, like, broadly, like, furry is known throughout the internet, and there's a generally accepted, I'd say, status of like furries online. I guess like it used to be a lot meaner on the older internet than today, but I'd say outside the internet, like, most people hear about a furry or get it explained to them, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? These people want to fuck animals? Is that what you're telling me right now? And so I can see why there might be some, like, beyond the internet public pressure to be like, hey, what is this? You know, like without context, it looks kind of weird.
Not just furries, but VTubers and anyone who used the term puppy or cat girl, all due to pressure from payment processors. On May 20th, 2025, Japanese game and comics retailer Surigaya made an announcement stating, "We are faced with a situation."
That's like 50% of like internet porn artists have some kind of like animal or insect in their username. You know, it's like part of branding. It's like saying you are no longer allowed to use street names or like the name of a geological formation in your porn name. You know, it's like, you're telling me I can't use my street name or diamond, crystal, jade, amethyst, or any name like that in my porn name? What the fuck do you expect me to do? I can't use seasons either? Like what do you expect, dude?
Situation where it is necessary to discuss payment processing methods for adult products with our providers. As a result, the site will be closed for the time being. On February 23rd, 2025, Japan's largest video sharing platform, Nico Nico, announced support for Visa and MasterCard was returning after a year-long hiatus, since they had removed over 50,000 videos with almost 1 billion collective views in order to comply with their policies. On November 26th, 2024, Manga Library Z, a comic shop specializing in out-of-print manga, shut down after 14 years of business due to Visa abruptly terminating service with them, even after working to comply with their policies. They would only be restored 5 months later after a crowdfunding campaign. May 21st, 2024, the creator...
Yeah, to be fair, a lot of anime definitely pushes the lines of what, like, the West, most of the West would ever find acceptable. Like, popular animes do regularly. I'm not, like, an anime expert by any means, but it's gotten to the point now where I've watched a decent handful of popular animes. Enough that I can really appreciate when an anime, like, does not succumb to tropes that typically leave me with a sour taste in my mouth. One of the best examples is probably Attack on Titan. that like never really gets weird, as far as I know. Like, and remember, like it never got weird, especially with a cast of like minors through most of the show. It never got weird, and that's something I really appreciate. But a lot of anime has a tendency to get kind of weird, and a lot of anime, like the majority of it, seems to primarily feature main characters that are minors. And I don't know if it's a cultural or legal thing in Japan, but like they seem to write some pretty sussy shit in situations for minor characters to end up in that you could not write here in America and not get like insane looks. Like, I'm talking, it is not abnormal for people to for an anime, for characters who are minors to end up in situations not too far off from like that one scene in It, you know, the book version of It, that probably left many readers thinking, what is wrong with Stephen King? Like, that level of what the fuck that's in It is not an uncommon type of vibe in a lot of anime, which is why I do think the anime community should be worried about this censorship, like going after all anime, because most anime sites, from what I can tell, do not have like a moral quandary with this. Like, the anime community does not seem to have much discourse about how like this anime is kind of fucking weird, considering like I don't even know how many animes I've had described to me where, like, we saw a clip about this earlier, but like there are a lot of animes I've had described to me where basically I just find out that the main character is a groomer, just like straight up a groomer. Like, one of the animes I've had friends complain to me about is called Seven Deadly Sins, or as my friend Balth calls it, Seven Deadly Groomers. I don't know what it's about, but it sounds kind of sussy, based on what I've heard. Those types of tropes are not uncommon in anime, and the anime community does not say, like, on our anime hosting site, we're not going to have Seven Deadly Sins or this million other animes that do some pretty sussy shit. But we're also going to host all the really good shit like One Piece and Death Note and Attack on Titan. And so if you want to go to sites to watch shows like Death Note, Attack on Titan, Monster, One Piece, like anime that doesn't get weird with it, then you're going to have a problem, because most anime sites and communities do not discriminate based on whether or not this media gets weird. And then, of course, you've got the anime that's actually just really artistically good, but gets into some really difficult subject matter. Think Berserk, right? Berserk is really fucked up and has some graphic, fucked up shit happen in it, but it is very much meant to be part of a story. It's like Game of Thrones. Like, you're like, okay, there's some fucked up shit happening in Game of Thrones, but like, there's a story being serviced. It's for a reason. Anime kind of does it to do it, you know? Like, I don't know. They do it to do it. Berserk is literally animated Game of Thrones. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, the vibe that I get is like Berserk is anime The Witcher if The Witcher was way darker. Like, way darker. And there was way more, like, fucked up shit and betrayal happening in it and whatnot. I do think there's some, like, Game of Thrones level betrayals and scheming and plots in Berserk later on, though, but I'm still pretty early on. Anyway, getting back to it.
Platform Fantia states they will no longer be accepting Visa and MasterCard due to hosting adult material. April 3rd, 2024, Dojin distributor DL Site announces they will no longer be accepting Visa and MasterCard due to hosting adult material. July 20.
I'm pretty sure Dojin means porn anime, right? Like, those are porn mangas, Dojins are? Pretty certain that's what that means. Because I hear... Sometimes I mix up Dojin and Shonen in my head, and I'm like, you know, that one Dojin, and people are like, what? I'm like, the one about the guy who gets the powers and his thing. They're like, do you mean Shonen? I'm like, I don't know Japanese.
20th, 2022, e-commerce platform DMM with 45 million members announces they will no longer be accepting MasterCard due to hosting adult material.
Dojin means self-published? Oh. Well, I guess I'm completely off then. I don't know Japanese, guys.
March 15th, 2024, e-commerce platform Gumroad bans sexually explicit material in order to continue doing business with PayPal. November 15th, 2022, Pixiv, one of the largest art platforms.
Listen, guys, we are one step away from Tumblr banning porn again, and when that happens, all the lefties on Tumblr will come back to YouTube like they did in 2019, and maybe then we'll see another big rise, another big wave of progressive content take off on YouTube, like in 2019 and 2020. I credit that as being one of the biggest reasons that happened, by the way, was the mass exodus from Tumblr.
In the world with over 100 million members restricts their sexually explicit content in order to continue doing business with credit card companies. August 19th, 2021, the website OnlyFans, with its 220 million users, famously announces that they will be removing their sexually explicit material from the platform, a decision that was reversed a week later.
Oh yeah, that was years ago. I remember covering that. I was about to say, like, they're doing it again? Like, they're gonna actually do that? That's wild. Like, when the censorship has gotten so extreme that porn sites are considering banning porn, like, period, that's kind of crazy. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna stop being porn sites now.
But initially done in order to continue.
This really does show, by the way, the government is so much weaker in its power to do censorship under capitalism than companies are. Like, these corporations, particularly the payment processors, have so much more power than the government here. Like, yeah, there are state governments banning porn across the country, but people are getting through it with VPNs, and it's really not hindering anybody's fapping, from what I can tell. But when you've got payment processors forcing the porn companies and websites to shut down or delete all the pornographic content, that's how you scrub it all off the internet. Like, that's a level of censorship that the government has yet to be able to pull off in America or the West. Like, this is so much scarier than what the government can do, based on what I've seen. Like, imagine they just decide at some point, yeah, violent video game content, not allowed online anymore, glorifies violence. That decision could end up getting made on some pretty big websites. God, I hope it's not YouTube.
Continue doing business with credit card companies. And on the 10th of December 2020, in perhaps the most important case of them all, the website Pornhub deleted nearly 10 million videos, over 80% of its catalog, and required all of its users to be personally verified before Visa and MasterCard forcibly cut ties with them anyways.
Yeah, I will say I do like what they did with that policy, to tell you the truth. I did a whole segment on this back in 2020, and I read the articles, and after looking into all the information, it seemed like a pretty reasonable move on Pornhub's part. Prior to this, Pornhub did not require you to submit an ID in order to verify your age before you made an account. And if you had an account on Pornhub, you could just upload videos there. Like, you could just upload porn of yourself onto Pornhub with no ID verification before December 10th, 2020. As you can imagine, that is a massive problem, like a really big problem. There's a reason why, like, OnlyFans and all these other websites, like, have instant bans if anybody who is not age verified even appears on camera or something. Like, there is a very good reason for that, and it's because these websites do not want to be responsible for hosting some random, like, teenager uploading some shit, or some weirdo uploading some shit of a teenager or a child. And mind you, for, like, I don't know how long Pornhub was around before 2020, at least a decade, right? For like 10, 15, 20, who knows how many years, Pornhub didn't have this policy. So anybody, any weirdo, any kid could make an account on Pornhub and upload videos there. And they could just be up there for years for anyone to see, anyone to find. And so when Pornhub instituted this rule, every account that did not, within a time span, verify themselves with the, like, ID verification and stuff, had all of their content deleted, and they got their accounts shut down. And so now, Pornhub only has verified content from people who have verified their age to be 18 or older, and they have very good moderation and policy centered around banning abusive content or any like shady, hyper amateur material that has a very low like standard by which it can be checked to make sure there's nothing exploitative happening in its production. You guys have to understand, like, exploitation in the porn industry can be a real problem. It is a good thing that Pornhub put a foot down on this. Like, this was a good move by Pornhub, and I'll die on that hill. I will die on this hill. This was, like, Pornhub did a W with that, like, policy change, in my opinion.
This Pornhub scandal in particular came after a New York Times article by Nicholas Kristof was written about the website, which accused them of being a hotbed for child abuse, revenge pornography, and sex trafficking. The article does showcase several prominent victims who had come forward.
Literally anybody could upload revenge pornography on Pornhub and have it go viral before that rule. Like, it would take, like, however long it takes to upload a YouTube video. Like, it was a joke on YouTube back then that when like a video game that you were let's playing had like sexual content in it that YouTube might not be happy about, they'll be like, hey, the next episode of the Let's Play, I'm uploading it to Pornhub. You know, and it's like, oh shit. That was like a meme during the Let's Play era of YouTube. I'm not even joking, because it was literally as easy as uploading a YouTube video to put a video on Pornhub. So this was a problem, like a big, big problem. And porn sites that have not followed suit with what Pornhub did are not the kind of porn site you want to be visiting, because you have no guarantee you're not going to see some exploitative content on there. And you might not even know it. Like, but Pornhub's policy protects you from even having to think about that.
Forward with allegations, more than enough to take it seriously, but to give you an idea of the tone the article takes, here are some quotes. Pornhub notes that the Internet Watch Foundation, an English-based nonprofit that combats child sexual abuse imagery, reported only 118 instances of child sexual abuse imagery on its site over almost 3 years, seemingly a negligible figure. Perhaps it's because people—
A negligible figure. Okay, for one, they found 118 instances on a website that has, like, what, 1 trillion videos on it? Like, dude, that's too much child porn on Pornhub. I'm gonna say it. 118 instances being found is too much child porn on Pornhub. I'm glad they made that rule and mass banned all that shit. Like, I know he's trying to poke holes in it and say, see, this is a part of a slippery slope. And I agree with the general premise of the video that, like, a lot of this tightening is a problem. But there are some areas where it's like, I'd say rules made to operate upon our society's morality standards are probably fine. Like, we probably should not allow bestiality glorifying content to proliferate online, which it is. I'm not saying furries are the ones doing it. I'm saying that that content is proliferating online. Like Lolicon and CP is no doubt proliferating online. I know Lolicon is, because look at Twitter and all the Lolicons there that will dogpile you if you say, actually, it's kind of weird if you watch Lolly. They will dogpile you for it. Like, they're clearly growing in their, like, social power, I guess, and acceptance. And I definitely think there's a value to, like, taking a stance against it. There's plenty of legitimate criticism towards the porn industry for its well-known infamous sex trafficking exploitation of women. Yeah, and, like, obviously Pornhub making that rule change isn't going to stop it entirely, but, like, dude, 118 instances? Pornhub notes that the Internet Watch Foundation, an English-based nonprofit that combats child sexual abuse imagery, reported only 118 instances of child sexual abuse imagery on its site over almost 3 years, seemingly a negligible figure. Is that a real sentence? Is that a real fucking sentence that I just read? From the New York Times, mind you. They're comparing it to Facebook, which has a lot more. Granted, yeah, it does seem by contrast, so it seems like they're talking about another site to compare it, but yeah, okay. Maybe it's just an uncharitable clipping out of context. Makes sense, but that's a problem right there. That's a lot. That's 118 instances too many.
On its site over almost 3 years, seemingly a negligible figure. Perhaps it's because people on Pornhub are inerted material and unlikely to report it. Too late we prosecute individuals like Jeffrey Epstein or R. Kelly. With Pornhub, we have Jeffrey Epstein times 1,000. But perhaps the most important line in that article is, and call me a prude, but I don't see why search engines, banks, or credit card companies should bolster a company that monetizes sexual assaults on children or unconscious women. If PayPal can suspend cooperation with Pornhub, so can American Express, MasterCard, and Visa. Because indeed, PayPal had previously severed ties with the site, and shortly after this article was published, all the
it surprises me PayPal ever had ties to the site, because all I've ever heard about PayPal is that they're some of the most aggressive in hating sex workers. Notably, like, PayPal will cancel your entire account and pocket all of your money in your wallet, your PayPal wallet, and never give it back to you if they find out you're a sex worker. And that's not an exaggeration, by the way. If you're watching right now, like, you're like an OnlyFans model or something, and you have a PayPal account, let's say your PayPal account is for, like, buying video games or something, and you have a Venmo, I guess, for doing porn content. Even though you never intermix your Venmo and your PayPal, if PayPal somehow finds out what you do, they will ban you, and you will have no recourse, and they will pocket everything in your PayPal wallet. Not even joking.
The other companies would do the same. Notably, after Pornhub took down all of the unverified content from its platform, which is the exact thing that Christoph asked them to do in his article. Here's where things get interesting, though. Later, in 2022, the company was sued by one of the victims Christoph featured, and Visa itself was indicted for facilitating their payments. You see, the main defense that companies like Pornhub have had against lawsuits over the years has been Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. The whole act was focused on regulating indecent content online and was actually found to be unconstitutional. But Section 230, dubbed the Good Samaritan provision, was specifically severed and upheld.
That seems highly illegal. Here's the thing about that. Nothing is illegal if you agree to it in a contract beforehand. Well, there are plenty of things that are, but, like, taking your money is not. So, for instance, think like when you make an account on Fortnite. Let's say you drop $10,000 on V-Bucks through Fortnite, and then one day, like, you lose a game, and you send, like, a mean DM to someone, and because of it, you get reported and banned by Fortnite permanently. You lose all the money you spent on V-Bucks and cosmetics if you lose your Fortnite account to it getting banned for any reason. And you might think, like, how can they just pocket all of my money I spent on cosmetics for my account? The fact is, you agreed to that when you agreed to their terms of service when you bought the game. And here's the fun fact: you can't play the game unless you agree to their terms of service. So, if you are a player of any big online game, you've already agreed to the terms of service that say they can take your product away from you at any time and pocket any money you've spent on cosmetics for it, without any legal necessity to provide you with the items you bought or with a refund or any kind of credit or anything. Like, you will own nothing and you will be happy about it. Exactly.
And it states that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. In plain English, no company can be found.
Yeah, obviously, you can't sign a contract saying that you consent to illegal activity being done to you, but, like, agreeing to give money to a company is not an illegal activity. You signed away your right to that money the moment you signed the TOS and spent the money on the game. Making it not theft for them to pocket because you agreed to that form of transaction. And, you know, a transaction legally cannot be deemed theft, even if it essentially is.
Found liable for the actions of someone who posts something illegal on their website, which, even after being overwritten by things like the DMCA and having certain restrictions for federal crimes, is an especially powerful bit of law. Possibly one of the only reasons the modern internet could even exist without everyone being sued into oblivion. Something proven in 2008's Doe v. MySpace and 2009's Dart v. Craigslist, where MySpace and Craigslist were found immune from prosecution despite one website being used for a meeting with an underage girl and the other for ads connected to prostitution rings. However, one of the support
Yeah, there's definitely, you don't want all these platforms to be held legally accountable every time a bad actor does something on the platform. The idea that, like, they can have the ability to reduce every case of bad action on their platform is ridiculous. Obviously, no platform can do this, which is why it is so important for there to be legal protections for these companies from getting sued because they're the bigger payout, you know? Like, if you're a victim of some kind of genuine crime that some random guy on Facebook committed against you, you could try and press charges against the guy on Facebook. Hell, you could even try to civilly sue the guy who did something on Facebook, and maybe you get a payout. Maybe you get some kind of benefit of some kind. Or you could sue Facebook, a company that if they lose could be deemed liable for millions and millions of dollars paid out to you. So without those legal protections, I hate to say it, but there are going to be some money-seeking individuals that are going to target the big, that like wealthy company over like the person who actually did something, and you don't want that to happen, because then all these companies are going to tweak out, make their rules way too strict, and no one will be able to do anything. And that's not something we want.
Supporters of the initial unconstitutional Communications Decency Act was an organization by the name of Morality in Media. They've been operational since 1962 as an evangelical conservative advocacy group who have mainly pushed for stricter obscenity laws, abstinence-only sex education, and the complete abolishment of pornography, as well as several more controversial things. I mean, not only did they once publicly condemn Monty Python's Life of Brian as a deliberate violations of the rights of believing persons, they also later wrote a statement titled Connecting the Dots, the line between gay marriage and mass murders. For those who knew about them, MIM was a very extreme fundamentalist group, and with the advent of the internet, they lost quite a bit of support.
That's Encos. They changed their name. I assume we're going to get to that in a minute.
Due to their positions, with their own president once saying, "The war is over and we have lost." So in 2015, they renamed themselves the National Center on Sexual Exploitation and narrowed in on trying to shut down pornography under the banner of protecting women and children from sex trafficking, which they were much more successful at. Their campaigning actually directly led to the United States passing the
Think of the children.
States and Victims to Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, which was bundled with the equally bluntly named Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act as FOSTA-SESTA in 2018. This group of bills, alongside formally criminalizing, assisting, facilitating...
Yeah, pretty much every independent sex worker in the world that I've ever met has told me that FOSTA-SESTA was the worst thing ever. Like, literally, like sex work industry 9/11. And that's not even an exaggeration.
For supporting sex trafficking, also successfully amended Section 230 to exclude any cases related to it. Meaning if your website or any of its users were accused of being in any way related to sex crimes, you no longer had any immunity from prosecution. Per Vox, in the immediate aftermath of SESTA's passage on March 21st, 2018, numerous websites took action to censor or ban parts of their platforms in response. Not because those parts of the sites actually were promoting ads for prostitutes, but because policing them against the outside possibility that they might was just too hard. 2 days after SESTA's passage by the Senate, Craigslist removed its entire personal section from its platform. In addition, Reddit banned multiple subreddits.
That's a genuine tragedy. The Craigslist thing is a genuine tragedy. Being able to sell pussy on Craigslist for like a thing in return led to some of the most hilarious things in internet history, okay? Who remembers the legendary Mount Lady? Who remembers the legend? Hold on, it's probably in this Mad Season video. Let me go to Mad Season. The most infamous Warcraft players. I think it's in this video, if I'm not mistaken. Ah, there's no timestamps. No, there are, okay. Leroy Jenkins, Sirac, Crowler, Inui, Dives. Okay, so I think it's the second one that he uploaded. Sort by most popular. Okay, I think it's this one. The red shirt guy, never mind. Martin Fury, Tommy, Kunin, Dives, Shitzu, Serenity. Okay, that's the... So it must be part 3. Fuck me, dude.
Fuck me, mate. Must be this video, then. What was that? Must just be the wind.
Come on, this is such a legendary piece of history. I've got to find it. Okay, I've now clicked through 3 Mad Season videos, and I've yet to find it, so I'm just going to Google it. Here's someone who posted it on the Classic WoW subreddit. No, they didn't post it. They just talked about it. Fuck. I gotta find the image. Here it is. Here it is. So for those that don't know, when World of Warcraft the Burning Crusade came out originally. It cost an ungodly amount of gold, 5,000 gold, to get a legendary flying mount, an epic mount, in TBC, allowing you to fly max speed. It's a hell of a grind. 5,000 gold in TBC was rough. Like, people had it, but like, it was rough to balance a life and WoW and have 5,000 gold to spend, especially that early in TBC, because it's 2007. And so she posted this ad on Craigslist, and this is some legendary shit, okay? Hello, I need 5,000 World of Warcraft gold for my epic flying mount. In return, you can mount me. You have to have an account on the Laughing Skull server. No server transfers or cross-server mailing back then. And I want the 5,000 gold before we do anything. How much must it have sucked to have been like a virgin WoW player who really wants to get laid, and you have like 10,000 gold, and you're like, I'm not on the Laughing Skull server? Are you fucking joking? And you just completely lose out because you're on the wrong server. We make the trade at your place, since I can't host. Edit. Because I'm having a lot of dumb guys message me who clearly don't have the gold, make sure to send a picture of yourself and a screenshot of your character with the 5,000 gold. I will be checking armory profiles. Thanks. I play a level 70 Night Elf Druid, of course she does, and would prefer someone who is into role-playing. I have a costume. But honestly, anyone will do. As long as you have the gold. I would be okay. I would also be okay with a woman, too, as long as you have the gold. Listen, she's gay for the gold, all right? Like, she wants that mount, bro. If you've ever wondered yourself, how much do people want an epic mount in Classic WoW? Enough for someone to say, I would also be okay with a woman too, as long as you have the gold. Also, not adverse to the idea of groups or anal. This girl's a keeper. Please send a pic and be real and drug and disease free with 5,000 gold on the Laughing Skull server. I'm gonna be honest, WoW players are typically pretty drug and disease free. Well, venereal disease free. They don't have a lot of sex, and WoW is so addictive. Most of them don't have time to do drugs. It's not okay to contact this poster with services or other commercial interests. And then she added a picture of herself. So, as you can imagine, instances like that have long been extinct since Craigslist made this decision. So we have lost out on moments like that in the future, and that is a loss for the entire internet, in my opinion.
In response, Google also began reviewing and deleting content directly off the Drive accounts of several of its users. Similarly, in late March, Microsoft abruptly announced a drastic change to its policies and enforcement of those policies that effectively scoured its many services, including Skype and its cloud storage products, of any adult content. And by seemingly complete coincidence, after FOSTA-SESTA was passed, one Layla Micklethwait, director at Exodus Cry, another noted evangelical anti-sex work organization, whose founder once compared abortion to the Holocaust and called homosexuality an unspeakable offense to God, started the campaign Trafficking Hub, which asked for Pornhub to be shut down and held accountable for, you guessed it, sex crimes, something that got them over 2 million signatures on one of their petitions. Trafficking Hub was at the
I do like when the pressure leads to good policy decisions, but like in the case of Pornhub, but man, it really is like the goal of the ones behind this pressure is to shut down the existence of any porn online. These are people who believe that the existence of media they consider sinful is an attack on their religious freedom. Think of it a lot like how conservatives operate around gay and trans people, where a black person, a gay person, a trans person, a woman existing in a piece of media is an affront to them. They see it as a political statement that is meant to demoralize and ridicule them, and they see it as an attack on them, and thus wokeness in media, as they call it, is literally an attack on their rights, because their right, as they see it, should be to live a life in which they never have to be exposed to what they call sin. A life in which they are exposed to homosexuality or gay people or trans people of any kind, they consider an attack on their rights. Gay people existing is too much to the evangelical hardcore Christian. So they don't believe in the idea that their right to swing their fist ends at your nose. They believe your right to exist ends where their fist is, more or less.
Forefront of the movement to shut Pornhub down and is referenced alongside.
They believe your nose being there is you impeding the rights of their fist to be swung.
Micklethwait in Christoph's article, which also sneaks in the line, we're already seeing that limiting Section 230 immunity leads to better self-policing, all before Christoph's call for credit card companies to cut ties, something that Exodus Cry and Morality in Media had been doing for years, having just written an open letter directed at Pornhub's payment processors a few months earlier. So after all this is where Serena Fleitas decided to sue MindGeek, Pornhub's parent company, for not taking proper measures to remove a video of her being abused while underage. As most lawsuits do, it throws the entire book at them, including charges of facilitating sex trafficking, which allowed them to bypass Section 230 protections. And it wrangled in every company affiliated with MindGeek in a massive RICO case, including Visa. Importantly, when Visa sent a motion to dismiss their involvement in the case, the judge denied it, citing the fact that Visa had previously cut and then restored ties with MindGeek since Christoph's article as primary evidence that they had conducted some internal investigation and must have been aware of any illegal activity, thus making them complicit. The allegations against MindGeek are obviously very serious. As Micklethwait posted on her Twitter, there are currently 27 lawsuits being made against them, most of them unresolved as far as I'm aware. Though the reason that I bring it up in this video is because this lawsuit is the single thing that has led to every other website I've talked about either shutting down or changing policy since 2020. It is the nexus point that you can trace all of the other payment processor related problems back to. Companies like Visa and MasterCard and PayPal have long been a prime target for advocacy groups to put pressure on. Of course they would be. Their dominance in the financial market means they have complete control over which companies live and die based solely on who they want to do business with. And they have no real obligation to do business with anyone or justify why they won't. During a Q&A at a press conference in Japan, someone asked Visa Japan's president, Sitan Kitney, why Visa was becoming unavailable in most adult stores. Kitney responded by saying that while Visa has a policy of allowing the use of its services for legal and legitimate payments as much as possible, sometimes we need to make payments unavailable to protect our brand.
Here's my big question. Does Visa have control over what their gift cards are used for? Because all I can think now is, like, there are gift cards in grocery stores and, like any checkout aisle, you'll see a gift card rack with, like, Visa gift cards that they'll range from, like, $20, $50, $100. Some even go up to, like, $500. That you can buy one of these cards and then load your own cash into the card, so to say. What it really is you're handing cash to a cashier and they do something that, like, adds that balance to the card. And so many sites probably won't accept gift cards, right? But, like, if we're talking about, like, adult stores, like what you mentioned before, could you go to, like, a sex toy shop, I guess, and go in there and be like, I want your biggest gigafuck vibrator, and then pay for it with a Visa gift card? Or would Visa be like, we know where you are, we know what this store does, we refuse to allow the purchase? Do they have a way to pull that off? I like, will the store not accept it? Because at that, like, I feel like they would. Or maybe, like, internally on the store's end, they wouldn't be able to accept it. Think like there's a similar issue when it comes to weed. Weed is legal in many states across America. Like, legal. Like, you can go into a dispensary if you're 21 years or older, buy, like, up to... God, it's like... It's a fair amount. There's, like, a weight limit per person, but it's so much that I'd never hit it when I smoked a lot of weed. And so, like, it's a lot. But regardless, you can go in, get weed, and you can more or less smoke it wherever. There are places you can't, but most of the places you can't, you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes either, right? But regardless, when you go into a dispensary to go and buy some weed, you cannot use any card to do so. There have been some unique cases, like in California, where I was able to use my card because they had some sort of, like, payment processing thing they set up that is, like, their payment processor. And that was pretty impressive. Like, this was a dispensary so big, a chain of dispensaries so big, they built their own payment processor, their own bank, basically, so they could take cards. But that is not generally a viable option. That's a hard thing to do. This is a very, like, centralized industry. And so because most of the banks that are also the payment processors are federal institutions, or they operate on a federal level, they are subject to laws on the federal level that apply on the state level. So a dispensary cannot work with a bank. A dispensary in California, Colorado, Washington, any legal state cannot work with a federal bank or any national bank, frankly, because they do work in all these non-legal states, and they're subject to federal law, which still deems marijuana illegal. So to buy weed, you almost always have to go to an ATM, pull cash out, and then use cash to buy weed. Every time. Because they can't work with banks. It's not federally legal. It's shitty. It is very shitty. Like, there are a lot of areas in which payment processors and banks control our lives. Does this also affect guns? You know what's real funny? As a gun owner who is friends with a lot of other gun owners, it has never once come up a single time that I might have a hard time buying a firearm using my Visa, my MasterCard, my American Express card, anything like that. Like, I never have once heard a warning like that when it comes to buying a gun or any ammo or any parts for guns. Funnily enough, there is no policy or public pressure from these companies that says you can't buy deadly weapons using their service, but porn, that's a different story.
That's it. That's their only reasoning. Visa can choose to shut down your entire website and just say, yeah, we had to, and then not elaborate. It's completely arbitrary. But as Kitney just admitted here, being a corporation who cares about brand image and profit margins, they are susceptible to large campaigns and weaponized public sentiment. If you make enough noise at one of these companies to make them think that supporting whoever you're rallying against will hurt them more than cutting ties, they'll drop whoever you want them to in a heartbeat. And even easier, if you can convince them that there will be legal consequences to not doing what you say, you can get them to bend the knee whenever you want. This is what Flytease v MindGeek did. It scared payment processors into distancing themselves from sex work and porn, because it proved that if a website Visa or MasterCard facilitates payments for is prosecuted, which they now can be even with Section 230, Visa and MasterCard can be found liable, meaning they now have to take up the responsibility of policing every company they work with, just to make sure they don't get in legal trouble. But because the FOSTA-SESTA acts are so vague, these corporations are much more likely to just cut ties with anyone who might pose a future risk, which, let's just be clear here, was the goal from the outset. Later reports would show that FOSTA-SESTA was a horrible disaster, and it was actually criticized for making it harder to prosecute actual sex trafficking in the US. According to a 2021 Government Accountability Office report, the acts were only used once during the first 3 years of their existence. The only major consequence of their passing that seemed to benefit anyone was that their removal of Section 230 protections made bullying websites into shutting down significantly easier. Congresswoman Ann Wagner, who co-authored FOSTA, even later used it herself to try and prosecute OnlyFans under accusations of them hosting unregulated and illegal material. During that famous week where OnlyFans was about to ban anything explicit, the company initially stated that it was due to pressure from their bank, JP Morgan, and that credit card companies hadn't been involved. However, later, a whistleblower from the US Treasury's Financial Crimes Unit revealed that a private complaint had been filed with Visa and MasterCard, which tried to pressure them into cutting ties over suspicion of sex trafficking. All while MasterCard was publicly campaigned into tightening their adult content policies by Exodus Cry. For reference,
I'm telling you guys, this era of conservative cultural sentiment we're in, this woke is dead era, there's more to it that's scary than just the fact that the left is in like a really bad place right now. There is like no social pushback against these things. Like, we're losing freedoms, not even on the government level, but also because right now these crazy radical groups are successfully able to apply more pressure than the public can defend them from, because the public has no interest in defending these companies from these radical groups and their pressure campaigns, which is leaving these far-right campaigns completely open to be the only ones just screaming from the rooftops that there's a problem, and there's no counter messaging. So from the perspective of these websites, these payment processors, the overwhelming consensus is that they should do what these radical groups are demanding. And it's scary. Without public panic, like there was when OnlyFans was going to ban porn, and there was a massive pushback against it. When we're in an era where that kind of energy just doesn't come from people anymore in response to fucked up shit like this happens, and in a few years we wonder how we got here. And the answer is because we let it happen and didn't say a damn thing as it did, and now it's too late. Let's hope it doesn't end up being too late. Let's hope before the worst parties take too much advantage of it, the broader public begins to fucking care. That's what I wish for my birthday. I want America to care about politics again. Because if they just cared a little bit, I have a feeling they wouldn't be complicit with what's happening across our government right now, to say the least, and they certainly wouldn't be in favor of it. Regardless, though, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable at all, you liked the video, the original video, and want to go take a look at the original channel and video, it'll be linked down below in the description. I thought it was very good, so I recommend that you do. Go drop a comment and a like as well. And don't forget to leave a comment and a like on my videos and streams if you want to support me, help to keep the channel thriving and reaching new people. It really does help a lot to like and comment. It's totally free, it takes half a second, and it really means the world to me, so be a liker, not a lurker. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already. And if you want to see more from me in the future, be sure to be sure to join my fan Discord, linked down below in the description. That is the main hub of my community and fan base, and on top of that, every week on Fridays I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights there in my Discord. So if you don't want to miss anything, that's the place to be. Finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch to the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me though, I really appreciate it. You guys are the best, and I hope to see you all again soon.